I'm consistently reminding everyone of one simple, provable, substantiated, tested fact that large bodies of water, when at rest on this earth, at least, lie level and horizontal always, which pretty much makes this place what could be called a topographical plane. So, with that being said, let's provide some more proof for that. Because when you say Z, that's a crazy thing you're saying. Because they told me my whole life that I live in like a round thing, a spherical object. Well, Z's here to tell you that there's really no proof of that. And actually, all the proof is in the opposite direction. That water's flat and level, just like your senses tell you it is, just like your common sense tells you it is. Let me break it down for those who need the training wheels of the group. When you're in your bathtub and you look at the level water, right? It's level. And then you go outside and you look at your pool and the water's level. And then you go down to the park. Maybe there's a lake there and you look at the lake and it's level. And then you go out to the ocean. Somewhere along the line, somebody taught you that that ocean curves. No, it's just as level as your bathtub, as your pool, as the lake. It's the same thing. As your buddy Z keeps telling you, the truth is simple. It's the lies that are complicated. People complicate this world through lies. Truth is very simple. It's not always easy because you have to break through the indoctrination, the programming, the conditioning that you've been under since the day you were born. So it's not easy, but it's simple. All right, let's get into it because previously I've shown you a mountain in France called Mount Canigou that is viewable from 163 miles away. From the ground to the mountain, 163 miles from ground location. Then I showed you what's considered the current world record from ground to ground observation, and that was 275 miles, somewhere in the Alps. And when I say 275 miles is the world record, that's the Guinness Book of World Record documented longest observation from ground to anything. We're not talking about planes. We're not talking about high altitude balloons. Apparently, we might have a new world record that shatters 275. Now, as if 275 miles was not enough to obliterate the globe, if this one turns out to be true at 616, well, I don't know. What's beyond obliteration? Annihilation? Like implosion? Either way, let's get into it. This is titled World Record Flat Earth Proof from Israel to Crete. 616 miles. And like I said, these observations are best made over water. Over water.
Hello, everyone. I have an awesome video to share with everyone today, and it comes from the YouTube channel Shimshon. Shimshon currently has only 4 subscribers, and so I highly recommend you head over to his channel, subscribe, and show your support and gratitude. I'll have a link in the description. Shimshon has a serious tech background. He was a graduate of University of California, San Diego in the STEM program. Unlike the globe trolls who frequent our channels, Shimshon actually worked in the purported space program. He worked for a time at the Center for
By the way, none of this matters, really. I think this presenter is using this just to establish the credibility because everybody just says, oh, this is fake, and anybody could fake it. This man's credentials really matter not. What matters is this real, and can it be replicated? That's all that matters.
For astrophysics and space sciences at UCSD on the electron drift instrument. He wrote most of the code to control the test harness to develop the instrument and refine its operation. This was allegedly launched on the space shuttle, but more likely just found its way onto a satellite balloon, much like this one. Shimshon has continued to work in software development in both America and Israel in marine and space science labs, controlling hardware, recording, analyzing, presenting data, using complex algorithms written in C and Forth. None of that really makes any sense to me, and I do have to take his word for it. Shimshon has been married for 30 years and has adult children. Came to the Flat Earth when he saw Owen Benjamin's analysis of my video, Our Flat Earth Journey, Romania, back in 2019. Anyways, after watching our Flat Earth Journey, Shimshon decided that he wanted to see too far as well, but in his...
Oh, by the way, just for anybody looking, what you're looking at on screen, this image, this is what your Earth looks like at high altitude without fuckery. This is without a fisheye lens. This is without digital altering. This likely is about between 24 and 26 miles in the air. So 120 some thousand feet, maybe 128,000. This is what your Earth looks like. So all the people that want to say, I saw curvature when I was in an airplane. You know, an airplane is average 36,000 feet is a cruising altitude, no more than 41,000. This is triple that, 4 times that almost. There's no curve, guys. It doesn't exist. They admit it now. People who defend the globe, like the high priest of scientism, Neil deGrasse Tyson, even admits that at 62 miles above the surface, you would not see curvature. At 62 miles. But you people keep telling me you could see it on the beach. Make it make sense. It doesn't. Let's continue.
His own way. Filming long distances has now become a hobby for him. That brings us to this particular footage that was taken on May 14th, 2023 in Israel. According to Shimshon, he had been preparing for years to capture that very footage. The current recognized world record long-distance ground-to-ground photograph from the Beyond Horizons website is this photo at a distance of 275 miles.
All right, so as I said before, that's what I said at the beginning. 275. You have the Finistrels Pyrenees to Peak Gaspard in the Alps. You can look this up, guys. 275. You might want to dispute what I'm telling you here about this Israel to Crete, because to my knowledge, it has yet to be replicated, and I say yet. This one's been verified. Guinness World Record verified. So just know that popular science and popular culture admits that you can see something on this earth from 275 miles away. The conversation should be over. I should never have to talk about the Southern Star rotations and the Southern Cross at all anymore, because that's secondary to the idea that you live on a level horizontal topographical plane, one that makes any idea of a globe impossible. Maybe deal with that conversation before you start talking about stars with me.
It's an impressive record, but that world record pales in comparison to what Shimshon filmed, and this wasn't filmed from the top of a mountain, but only from about 133 feet. The observation comes from the Ashkelon National Park in Israel. According to Google Maps, the elevation at that location was 128 feet. Add 5 feet for the camera's tripod, and that gives us an observation height of about 133 feet. I have the coordinates listed here on the map. This was his camera and setup on that day. I don't know much about cameras, but Shimshon is using a full spectrum infrared camera here. According to Shimshon, this is better than the Nikon P1000 for long distance viewing, and it cost him less than $600. I hope at least 100 of you go out and get this set up. I certainly need one of these. Here's this.
Right, so you can see the camera and you can see different parameters here. Firstly, it's obviously a super zoom. All right, you can see he adopted it with a Nikon super zoom lens. But of note, and this is important, it's a infrared, and that's very likely why he was able to capture this, because an infrared camera is much better able to cut through the atmosphere, the haze, things like that, because it runs on a different bandwidth of basically visual light energy, okay? It's infrared. It expands our visual acuity, which makes me wonder if they knew when they introduced these cameras with these super zoom telephotos, they had to know this was going to be the death blow to their globe. That's why I don't think they're going to be able to maintain this economy much longer and the system. That's why I think they're either going to engineer or they know of some type of coming cataclysm.
Here's his equipment list for those who are interested. pause the video if you need to. Much like this Canigou photograph that was taken in France from a distance of 163 miles.
We've reviewed that one, okay? That Canigou one. Notice this Canigou one. This isn't even zoomed in. That's not even telephoto. What you see there where that sun is setting, that little sliver, that's a mountain 163 miles away that you could visualize with your naked eye. If you calculated how much that should be hidden by curvature, well, you'd understand what we're talking about here. You might say, well, how come it's only certain times you could see it? Because you see how the sun is behind it? It creates a silhouette. It's not able to be seen otherwise. Only certain times a year, under certain conditions, when basically it's in the line of sight of you and this quote-unquote setting sun. Plain and simple.
Like this Canigou photograph that was taken in France from a distance of 163 miles that you can find on the Beyond Horizons website, Shimshon instead planned to capture the setting sun behind the Greek island of Crete. But the distance between Ashkelon National Park in Israel and the highest point in Crete was 616 miles. That's 453 miles further than that Canigou photograph. And the only way you're going to see that far is through a full spectrum infrared camera. Let's watch the footage. I'll leave a link to the unedited version in the description. There is some confusion on exactly what platform that is. Unlike many other countries, Israel seems to keep those things a little bit more hidden. And so you have some maps showing platforms much more north, while some showing the platforms much further south. The GPS coordinates are off as well. Shimshon didn't even know that the platform was going to be there when he planned this event. Although interesting, the platform and location doesn't affect the observation because...
Do you see as the sun is setting how the purported mountains are coming into view as the sun's setting? Creates a silhouette. And I love the people who are going to try to claim it's refraction. That, oh, well, it is the mountains, it is the island of Crete, but, you know, it's really below the Earth curve. It's refracting above it. Well, really? Because how's that oil platform there? Right in between. It's just line of sight. Plain and simple.
And because we're relying on where the setting sun is and the angle to it. As you can see from this rough diagram, SunCalc placed the sun in direct line with Crete, but it gets better. So how can we confidently say that Shimshon actually filmed Crete 616 miles away and those aren't some distant clouds? First, keep in mind that the whole event was carefully planned and executed, including a specific date and vantage point. This wasn't an accidental viewing. He used a high zoom, full spectrum camera to capture what very few people would be able to do, to capture the silhouette of Crete in front of the setting sun. Second, the silhouette in front of the sun certainly looks like pointing mountains in the distance, much like Canigou, which further supports Shimshon's claim. What are the odds that at the exact time of his planned observation, clouds just happen to form at the same angle with the setting sun that appeared to look exactly like mountains? Possible, but not probable.
And here's the thing. The key is replicating this. This is what I say about science. You don't have to guess. We don't have to be like, oh, I wonder. No. This guy or somebody else can go out the same day that he did this each year and do this and see if he can replicate his findings. And then it proves it. So this one's up in the air. We're not going to give this the world record yet. 275 to my knowledge, and there's been other purported ones in the Alps, but 275 has been verified. But I think this is a good one.
But more importantly, the silhouette of the mountains in the actual video closely matches the same results from Google Earth. Here we have our pathway from the camera's location to the highest point of Crete. According to Google Earth on May 14th, 2023, this is what the sunset should have looked like on the same pathway. Keep in mind that Google Earth adds a phony curvature drop, which distorts the view of the mountains. Regardless, compare Google Earth sunset with the actual video. I have them here on top of each other. The silhouette of the mountains in Shimshon's video appears very similar to what Crete should have looked like from that angle. And the sunset angles match as well. Those two facts strongly support the claim that Shimshon did indeed film Crete. Let's get to the coup de grace of the...
You have to understand, this isn't an accident, right? The guy wasn't the Shimshon guy. He wasn't just at the beach with a super zoom Nikon full spectrum infrared camera and pointed it out and said, oh, I wonder if that's Crete. No, he planned this out for a long time. He waited for a very specific day where he knew that by standing in a certain position on the beach in Israel, from his vantage point, the sun would be setting, quote unquote, setting behind the island of Crete. He planned this. He pointed his camera in the direction and then he filmed this. You have to understand what this is. Which means if this is true, it should be able to be replicated. So I'm not putting all my eggs in this one, but it's compelling nonetheless.
To the globe. At an observation height of 133 feet and a distance of 616 miles, we get a target hidden height of 240,197 feet, or 45.5 miles.
All right. So that means there should have been 45.5 miles hiding that island. I want you to think of where you are right now. And I want you to picture something 45.5 miles away from you, some town, some location. Have you done it? Roughly speaking. Picture that. Picture how far that is, okay? That's how much either earth or in this case water should have been obstructing this island. I don't know why. I don't know why this is so clear to me. I think because it's so simple and because the deception is so egregious, I think it strengthens the lie. Because what happens is people emotionally can't handle this information. They can't deal with such a large, monstrous lie and that they could have been deceived and tricked. Because it's humbling. It's humbling to think this. It takes courage to face this.
Here are the calculations in metric. For some perspective, a height of 45.5 miles would be enough to hide 88 of the Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other. The highest point on Crete is Mount Ida at 8,058 feet, or 1.5 miles. That means the tallest point on Crete should have been 39 miles below the geometric globe horizon. The top of those points should be 39 miles below the curvature from the vantage point of Israel. Of course, the hired globe propagandists aren't going to give up their livelihood and surrender to the flat earth truth, but come on. Shimshon's video evidence here destroys the globe for the honest and reasonable person. There is simply no way that Crete should have been visible 616 miles away at a mere observation height of 133 feet. I don't care what imaginary pixie dust you throw at it in your ridiculous attempts to maintain your globe indoctrination. The globe illusion is dead here. Thank you for watching.
And we'll say it looks a little large to be 616 miles away, but that could be some type of lensing effect. Like I said, this is recent. It hasn't even been a year, so there hasn't even been a chance to replicate this. But you have to understand, you have to have the right day and you have to have the right atmospheric conditions. Everything has to be perfect to see something so far away. There's further things, you know, things have been viewed with infrared imaging like 1,000 miles away from elevation, like from airplanes and stuff, which still destroys the globe. They're actually the biggest globe destroyer, is high altitude infrared imagery. You have to understand, people say, well, they're so high, so of course you can see further. Well, yeah, that's not how it works, because as you ascend in altitude, it's just simple linear growth. But curvature is non-linear. It's exponential. It's squared. 8 inches per mile squared. Which means even if you have to go to high elevation to see something far away, once you do the math, you understand what I'm talking about here.